Hi everybody. Um, in my previous videos, I have talked about microservices and explained you the basic architecture. Today, I'm going to dive into one of the most talked about topics in modern software engineering and the microservices architecture. We know that microservices bring incredible benefits like scalability, flexibility, and faster deployment. The reality is that adopting them comes with some serious challenges. So, in this video, I'm going to break down the top challenges organizations face when moving to microservices and what you can do to overcome them effectively. Let's start with the first challenge, service coordination. In a microservices world, you don't have one big application anymore. You have dozens and sometimes hundreds of small services that all need to talk to each other. Making sure these microservices communicate correctly, handling load balancing, service discovery, and fault tolerance can get messy fast. So use tools like Service Mesh, ISTO, for example, or API gateways like Microsoft APIM or APG to manage communication, routing, and monitoring between services. Next one is distributed data management. In microservices, each service owns its own database, which is great for independence, but a nightmare for consistency. Sometimes you're dealing with multiple data sources that all need to stay in sync, right? So here the solution is to adopt event-driven patterns. Use tools like Kafka or RabbitMQ to synchronize changes between services without blocking your entire system. Next is service orchestration, deciding how services collaborate. So, do you have one service controlling others, which is orchestration, or do they all coordinate themselves? Choreography. This decision shapes your entire architecture. So, for simple workflows, go with choreography using events. For complex business processes, use orchestration tools like Camunda, for example, to manage the flow. Next is testing and monitoring. Testing microservices isn't like testing one app, it's testing a whole ecosystem. When one service fails, you need to trace which one, why, and how it affects others. Solution here is to adopt end-to-end monitoring and distributed tracing tools like Zipkin or Prometheus. Add and build automated integration testing pipelines early. Don't wait production to find out something broke. Let's move on to deployment and versioning. Microservices can be deployed independently, but that freedom can cause chaos. Different teams may release updates at different times, and suddenly one change breaks another. So the best practices here are use CI/CD pipelines for automated builds and tests, enforce semantic versioning and backward compatibility rules, use containers like Docker and orchestration platforms like Kubernetes for consistent deployments. Now let's look at security and governance. More microservices mean more APIs, and more APIs mean more security risks. So you now need to secure dozens of endpoints, each possibly running its own authentication and data exchange. So centralizing security using API gateways and OAuth2 or OpenID Connect, right? Use encryption everywhere, both in transit and at rest. Maintain audit logs and role-based access controls across all services. Let's look at organizational alignment. People matter. Microservices aren't just a tech challenge; they're a cultural challenge. So, your teams must shift from large centralized department or development to autonomous DevOps teams that own their services end to end. So, how to adapt? Encourage cross-functional teams. Developers, ops, and QA all together in one team. Define clear ownership boundaries for each service and promote a culture of collaboration, not silos. Let's move on to operational complexity. Managing microservices can feel like juggling 100 balls. At the same time, different languages, shared libraries, and environments make operations more complex than a monolith. So use container orchestration tools like Kubernetes. Standardize your deployment templates, automate your scaling processes, and build internal dashboards for visibility. Performance and latency. This is important when the network slows you down. Each microservice call adds networks overhead, and if your services talk too much, latency can kill performance. So how to fix it? I would say minimize your cross service calls, use caching and asynchronous messaging, optimize with GraphQL or API aggregation layers to reduce round trips. Next is documentation and knowledge sharing. So as teams grow, knowledge gaps appear. Without good documentation, you'll end up with services no one understands. Maintain an internal developer portal like Backstage, enforce API documentation standards like Swagger or OpenAPI, encourage docs at code culture. Closing thoughts. So to wrap up, your microservices are powerful. They give you flexibility and scalability and faster delivery. But the road to microservices success is paved with complexity in technology, people, and processes. The key is planning. Plan your architecture, your data strategy, your DevOps pipelines, and your team structure before you dive in. And remember, microservices aren't a silver bullet. Sometimes a well structured monolith or modular approach can serve you better, especially early on. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more deep dives on digital architecture and agile delivery. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.